Welcome to OKState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest. Mountaineer Paul from Locked On West Virginia joins OKState Daily, gives us a rundown and an opponent preview of this weekend's opponent, the Mountaineers. So, hey, Paul, thank you so much for joining. Super glad when I reached out that you responded back. So excited to have you in.
Hey, man, I appreciate you as well. And actually, you know what's fun is I got 3 berries, and Mr. Seal from Utah only got 2. So I feel just a little bit more special.
All right. Fantastic. Oh, did he? So I gave you 3.
He was a very, very special guest, and I was a very, very, very special guest.
Well, you know what that means then. This is going to be a good day, right? Yep. Okay, let's dive right in with Neil Brown. I don't know if hot seat would be the right way to put it, but he kind of caught lightning in a bottle. He was the OC under Tommy Tuberville at Texas Tech, a regime there that was not successful. So went to Troy, had a good head coaching career there, beat LSU, kind of caught lightning in a bottle. Kind of tell us what the vibe is on him.
33-31, and he also beat Nebraska, which some people like to, in Lincoln, which is a good win as well, no matter how bad they are and how good Troy is, I guess you would say. But, it's different. It's one of those things where if you had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10, Neil Brown has gotten a 9 to 10 on every single metric you want, as far as how great of a person is he, how much in the community is he involved, how much West Virginia is he, because West Virginia is a unique culture fit for some people. It's, we're as much Southern as anything to some people. And he's hit that because he's from Kentucky. And unfortunately, 33-31, and when you look at the history, we're the winningest team in the conference. We're top 15 all time historically as a winner. We played in national championship games. We won several BCS bowl games, which would be the playoff now. And unfortunately, we haven't lived up to that in quite a long time. And it's frustrating and sad. And this is it. This is the year. You're coming off a 9-win season in which you turned almost as much production as you guys, not quite as much as the Cowboys did, but a lot off a 9-win team, and we expected a lot, and it really got off to a disappointing start. So,
and I think some of that is, this team, it seems like, just watching West Virginia, not just this year, but in the last couple of years, extremely explosive. You watch them at times, you're like, holy cow, this team is really, really good. But then it just kind of seems like from afar, they can't sustain success. It's like there's a little bit of inconsistency there where you kind of go up and then it drops back down, and just it never seems to stay even keel in terms of the production.
You're absolutely right. And what's crazy about it is, there's a lot of things you can look at. Neil Brown has never beaten a top 25 team on the road, ever, since he's been here. That's just not normal. In over a 6-year span, you would think that you would get 1 or 2.
Of course, they did beat OSU on the road last time, but OSU was reeling at that time.
They were reeling, of course, yeah. And like last year, you were reeling, and we were kind of your get right game, So we're hoping it's not going to be the same thing this year. But
appreciate that, brother.
yeah, absolutely. I think Ollie Gordon's still running for touchdowns in the fourth quarter.
We all greatly appreciate that.
But it's been rough. We all want Neil Brown to succeed, but we're at the point to where we can't sacrifice any more of not seeing the team succeed. We've been in the league for more than 10 years now. We're in 11 and 12 years, and 2012, so this would be 12 years. And we still haven't won a league title. I'd have bet $1 million you would be wrong. In 2012, coming off the run we had with Pat White, Steve Slayton, Geno Smith, we won 3 BCS bowl games in 7 years. We were ranked in the top 10 3 times during that span. We were 1 game away from the national championship coming into the league off an Orange Bowl win against Clemson, 70-33. So we felt good coming in, and it just, travel does have a lot to do with it. People may want to laugh at that, but honestly, I do think travel has had something to do with that. We were the only team in college football for 10 years that had to travel like we did.
And even in the Tavon Austin days, in that group where you had the triplets, you still couldn't beat OSU even that year in Stillwater. So this has kind of been like a kryptonite game for you guys. Yeah. It's just kind of crazy how OSU struggled with other types of teams. This has just kind of been that week to where if everything could go wrong for West Virginia, it just always seems to do that against OSU. Is there any reason for that? Other than OSU's been good.
First of all, you're playing against what I would consider to be case, or Oklahoma State's Rich Rodriguez, which was what we had,
Yes,
or his maybe your Don Nealon, which was what we had during that great run.
Yeah.
Your generational coach, Mike Gundy, and you can't underestimate what he's done. So she's definitely stubborn, but in almost the best ways he is. And you guys have done so well with him, and I think he has a lot to do with that. And you guys just don't lose at home a lot. Look at that stadium behind you. Yeah. It's, we two stadiums are the biggest two stadiums in the Big 12. We both have 60,000 plus that can get in there, and it's a really tough place to play. Combine all those things with just being good, and you've got yourself a pretty good mix.
You mentioned Don Nealon. I was at that 1986 Sun Bowl where Oklahoma State took on West Virginia. That probably predates you, but that was the Major Harris days.
Almost.
Major Harris was just one of the best players in the United States of America. Yeah, I talked to a couple of former players. I remember that game like it was yesterday. Thurman Thomas had a big day for OSU. Believe it went overtime. So there's some history here with Oklahoma State and West Virginia. You mentioned Mike Gundy being stubborn and mostly in the good ways. Yes, there is no doubt about that. He has always met the challenge. There's been some different crossroads. He's always met the challenge with OSU, but it does take him a little bit longer because he's so convicted in what he does. But as well as I do, Paul, being convicted in what you do is also what makes you great. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse.
It's not going to come without its detractors. You know? I think some people want to ask, look at it this year. Is Casey Dunn and Mike Gundy in some kind of peeing contest with each other? Is there some kind of turmoil in that locker room? Well, I don't know. But that seems to be a narrative that's out there. I'm interested to see if that's true. We'll know by the end of the year.
If there is any of that, I think that's something that we'll see as it goes on down the line, but it has certainly nothing that has been made public. I think Oklahoma State fans just get frustrated with Mike Gundy from time to time because he gives the same standard line after a bad loss, like, hey, we just got to stay the course. We've got to, just rely on our culture, that kind of thing. Yeah. That's not what some fans want to hear. They want to hear, my offensive coordinator sucks. We're going to fire his ass. We're going to go run a whole new playbook next week, and that's how we're going to fix it.
I've had that same conversation with West Virginia fans this week. They want us to run a 2-minute offense all the time, like we used to, because it worked against Kansas and it did against Pitt.
Absolutely.
And Neil Brown answered that in his press conference when asked. They said, do you think you'll go more towards this? And he said, well, if we did, people just have answers for it. They don't prepare for our 2-minute. They prepare for a slowed down 2-back system with shot plays and a running quarterback. They don't have time to prepare for 2-minute very much. If we ran 2-minute all the time, then they probably would have answers for that. People know that it's hard. It's easy to be an armchair quarterback.
Yeah. And I love what Gundy says about it. Hey, I love the fact that we have a certain section of fans that think that way because that means they care. That means we've built a program in which people have those kind of expectations. But, hey, let's get to this West Virginia team this year. Garrett Green, this dude is like dynamic. He can make some of the greatest, most spectacular plays on earth, but then he can go get the penalty against Houston last year, to which was I still can't get over that. I'm not even a West Virginia fan, and that just broke my heart to watch that happen because he just got caught up in the emotions, that kind of thing. But so he's that type of guy that can lead you to the mountaintop and then make a mistake right behind it. And it just seems like he kind of adds to that inconsistency of this program.
Yeah, they it's crazy you mentioned this. So leading into Penn State, it was the biggest build-up to a game I've seen in probably 10 years going into that game. A lot of it had to do with Pat McAfee behind the scenes stoking the fire. Big Noon was there, which has really grown as a pregame show. It's really turning into a counterpart to game day, not quite as big. But McAfee was there the day before. And so all the players were so keyed up for that game. I truly believe it lasted 2 games. It was that bad. They were so keyed up. Garrett Green was shaking. The very first snap of the season was fumbled. There was so much hype into this game, and they've all admitted it. They were so keyed up. And so I think it's taken a few games. And to your point, though, Garrett can get like that. He's very much a hype kind of person. You go watch the North Carolina bowl game, the slide, the point, everything that he is. He's 5'11". He was a baseball player. But he is truly dynamic. I mean, look, he had a top 10 all-time rushing season for quarterback last year. 13 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards.
Well, it's your second leading rusher this year.
And you know what? He only really has broke loose the last couple games. A lot of that schedule. Penn State's such a good defense. a lot of it is Neil Brown can be conservative, and he gets a lot of criticism for that.
That seems like every fan base
right.
on earth. Hey, our coach is too conservative. The other team, I mean, I can tell you what play they're going to call from the stands. It's like every single fan base has that narrative towards their offensive coordinator. I always find it interesting when I talk to other people's fans and hear them say the same things. It's just kind of fun to hear. But, hey, we're talking about your running back, C.J. Donaldson. We talk about maybe some of the ups and downs. This is a dude that has been absolutely rock solid for West Virginia. Third year in the program. He knows the offense back and forth. He knows what the coaches want back and forth. He was an honorable mention Big 12 last year. C.J. Donaldson, a great player and very steady.
Absolutely. And you know what's crazy about him is this is only his third year ever in his life playing running back.
Oh, really?
Tight end in high school.
Wow.
He's 6'2",
Nice.
200. He's like Ollie's size. So this kid's 6'2". He's about 240. You know, he's in that 4-5 range. He's explosive. He's more of a straight line guy, even though they try to run him east and west sometimes, which makes no sense, but it happens. He's really good, and this is only his third year of his life playing running back, so it's taken a while for him to really get the flow. We feel like he's figured it out this year. Jaheim White was supposed to be the headliner coming into this year. He was a freshman All-American last year, and he still has all that talent, but we think he's hit that sophomore slump. We're hoping he breaks out of that.
Your receiving core, I found it interesting. Jaden Bray, of course, was at Oklahoma State last year. He transferred to West Virginia with the wild, wild west of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
We know how talented he is. I think he's like the 7th leading receiver, and he received something like that.
Yeah.
So that tells me just how talented this receiving room is for West Virginia. Led by Hudson Clement, which I don't know a whole lot about him, but it seems like he's pretty much self-grown and just kind of has worked his way into being the great receiver he is. And then Traylon Ray as well. So talk about the receiving room.
Yeah, really two different backgrounds, you know. Huddy, we call him Huddy Tutty, and he was a walk-on, obviously, earned a scholarship after the way he performed in both the spring game and in the very first game he played in. Now he is in his first full year as a scholarship player, even though he led us in receptions last year as a freshman. You know, he was so good, or in yards, not receptions. He's been so good, and man, he really made Kobe Bryant and Mello Dotson from Kansas look bad last week, or who are two of the better corners. If not, you can make a claim for Kobe at Kansas, maybe the best corner in the league. He played so well last week. He really did. And Ray, as you mentioned, great straight line speed, highly regarded coming out of high school, and he was also a freshman last year. We started 3 of them for the majority of the year last year, so.
Couple of All-Americans on your offensive line, Remack and Milam, a couple of seniors. So this is an offensive line that, with a running back like Garrett Green that can run, with a returning honorable mention in C.J. Donaldson, with a young freshman coming in you just mentioned, that is super dynamic. This is an offensive line that is something that West Virginia was excited about this year, right? Yeah,
it led the Power 4 in rushing last year.
Yeah.
So, we were excited about what we had returning. Obviously, you just can't replace Zach Frazier, who – if through the first 4 games is playing like the best center in the NFL. He had a 95 run grade and a 95 pass grade in Pro Football Focus 2 weeks ago. It's just incredible. So he's playing well for the Steelers, but he's replaced by 2 really good players that have played a lot of ball. Center and right guard have played a ton over the last couple of years. Those are 2 newer pieces. Right tackle, we start another kid, the name of Nick Malone's really well, but Wyatt Mom is the mainstay. He'll probably be a first rounder, if not a second. He hasn't allowed a sack in years now, so he's really, really good. He went straight up with Abdul Carter and didn't even allow hardly a pressure. So if that tells you anything, and he might be the first pick in the draft.
Oh, wow. That's very, very impressive. The offense has been good. The defense, kind of like Oklahoma State, it's been a struggle. You mentioned not beating top 25 teams on the road. That's the best way not to do it, is to not play very good defense, right? And so just quite frankly, I don't know how any other way to put it. Defense has been a struggle for both these teams.
It's been rough, man. Look, going into last week, I looked at you guys and saw that you were last, and I was in shock. I just never thought I would see an Oklahoma State defense last in both passing and rushing. And I thought, well, it's probably the schedule because it played 2 tough teams. Kansas State did you no good. But as far as we go, it's been rough. We went out and got 6 transfers to plug in, and tell me you got a problem. You can go out and get 6 transfers into the back end of your defense. So a lot of it's been that.
Oh, just on the back end. Wow.
Every single starter on the back end is a transfer, except for 2 players. And the all corners are brand new.
Wow.
We brought in 2 Power 5 guys out of Northwestern. They won 8 games last year, and they started on that defense, so we felt good about them. They've been horrid. We're talking about grades in the 50s on Pro Football Focus. So we're relying on just who we can rely on. We had a much better game holding the kid at Kansas, Jalen Daniels, to 180 yards last week, but that was by design. We played it too high, made them run it. I anticipate we'll probably do that.
Really?
Similar. Yeah.
Lighter box for Ollie, huh?
I don't know. We don't trust our back end,
Wow.
So we I think we have to trust our front because we lead the Big 12 in pressures. We've got a guy on the defensive line that's got over 30 on the year. TJ Jackson, he's second in the Big 12 in sacks. If we can get pressure with 4, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, this sounds like a very interesting chess match because
it's going to be.
Sounds like Oklahoma State can throw the ball on West Virginia, but then it sounds like also you might be able to get enough, maybe not sacks on Alan Bowman, but enough pressure and in his face enough to make him throw off his back foot, which he tends to do when he gets people in his face, which makes him inaccurate. So I think that's the chess match right there.
No doubt about it. They got to Holstein, I want to say 14, 15 times in the game against Pitt, and I think 4 or 5 were sacks. So they really pressured the crap out of him. That was a big jump in the numbers. Jalen Daniels ran around all day last week. Or week before last, it was a bye week. I keep forgetting. And then obviously we played Penn State the first game, and we got a bunch of pressure on Aller as well. It seems like no matter who we played this year, quarterbacks just make tough throws against us too. That's been an interesting thing to see too. We've had a few crazy catches that have like just real quick. It was 3rd and 30. Our defender tipped the ball, and their defender caught it behind the guy because he didn't just swat it down. Just weird stuff like that.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah. That is crazy. So if I were to ask you, Mountaineer Paul, what West Virginia comes into Oklahoma State and beats OSU
I think if they get to Alan Bowman, I think you're going to have to make him play bad. I think Ollie Gordon it's not if, but when he gets going. I mean, you guys, the first time I read it, I couldn't believe you had 6 or 5 6-year seniors on the offensive line. Yeah. That's just not something you're ever going to read about again, I would say. So it's going to be not if, but when they get him going. So I'm going to say, Bowman's going to have to make a couple mistakes in this game for West Virginia to come out on top, in my opinion, because I can't remember recently when Gundy's probably felt more pressure from the fan base. It's been rough for you guys from a fan base perspective this past couple of weeks. So I think Gundy's really going to make an attempt. Neil Brown and company have had 2 weeks to get right here in a game they have to win. This is a have-to-win game if you look at our schedule. We've got you guys, K-State, Iowa State, Kansas State, all in a row. So it's either win now and get ahead for the upcoming gauntlet or lose now and you're out of it.
Yeah, it's getting down to that part of the season. So it sounds like this could be a week where Ollie Gordon actually might have a little bit of running room just because you're having to beef up on the back end. So that might be good for Oklahoma State. So it's going to be super exciting. I will be there in that beautiful Boone Pickens Stadium that you see behind me on the screen. So, hey, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts. You said 12 years. I have another site called Dodgers Daily, which is my main site, and the Dodgers have several pitchers from West Virginia, Madison Jeffrey, who they actually just released this last year, and then Michael Grove, who made his Major League debut a couple of years ago and has done a good job with the Major League team. So I've talked to them a little bit, and then also Steve Sabins was at Oklahoma State forever, the head coach now, who was with Randy Mazey. Randy's just such a wonderful man.
I almost mentioned you look like Randy Mazey a little bit.
Oh, do I? Okay, nice. Well, that's a compliment because Randy Mazey is a stud, man. I love that guy.
He is.
Yeah, Sabes has just a wonderful energy to him. And you mentioned that being kind of a niche job because at OSU kind of has that same niche feel to it. So he'll absolutely kill it at West Virginia. So I get to talk to them a little bit about that kind of stuff. But to get your opinion, what has the Big 12 been like for West Virginia since they've joined?
It's a perfect fit culturally. It's a perfect fit fan
I agree.
base-wise.
I totally agree.
It's a perfect fit. The geography is literally the only problem.
Yeah.
just think about it from our fans' perspective, and imagine if you had to travel to West Virginia for every away game. Mm-hmm. That's what it's like for us. And it has been for 12 years. So our fans can't go on the road to any games. And that's the part that sucks the worst. It's not fair to us. But at the same time, what choice do we have? We have to do it. We're grateful for the Big 12 and the lifeline that we got. We definitely deserve better. We were supposed to get in the SEC over Missouri, but we're past that. We're grateful to be where we are. And a great basketball conference as well. We love basketball too at West Virginia. So we're excited about it. Love the Big 12, man. Really grateful. But, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with it all, with the new league being proposed and everything. Gordon Gee and Hokut's name was on it, came out yesterday, and it's interesting.
It is very interesting. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but hopefully the Big 12 can keep growing eastward. I think that's why they held off on the Pac-2 with Oregon State and Washington State, was because you don't know what's going to happen with that ACC, and that would only be of the benefit to West Virginia. Cincinnati will help with travel there.
That's going to help.
UCF, I know West Virginia gets a ton of players out of Florida.
Yeah,
so
that's been
UCF will help. Yeah.
Yeah, our fans will go all down south all day long. It's not hard to convince our fans to go to Florida. We went and played in the Duke's Mayo Bowl down in Charlotte. We played against North Carolina, and we had 45,000 fans there, and they had 15 or something like that. And we've got such a huge alumni base in North Carolina and Charlotte. So it's not hard for us to get south, but that's been grown over how many years, It just takes a while I don't know if we'll ever grow that far towards you guys, but we're certainly grateful and realize that we still have fans that travel. I'm sure you've seen West Virginia fans that have already gone, but if it was closer within the 4 to 6 hour radius, like most teams have, we would travel so much better.
And it would probably be more attractive to recruits out of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And those
that's been a deterrent in recruiting as well. Yeah, you try to recruit a kid locally or even down south, and he's not ever going to play in front of his family. Ever. Right. So it's not like it used to be when you can say, well, we'll be at Maryland, or we'll be at UConn or wherever. You'll be in South Florida, where you can't really say that anymore. You can a little bit with UCF and Cincinnati now, though, so that has helped, like we just talked about. But recruiting wise, we don't have a home state to recruit out of either. That's what a lot of people don't realize, is our home state is kind of bad when it comes to football. We have probably less than, there are always players that make it that you don't see coming, but generally 4 to 5 major Power 5 kids come out of West Virginia a year.
Yeah. What are you, about 45 minutes from Pittsburgh, hour, something like that?
Yep. Yeah. All the recruiting we do is Pittsburgh, Virginia, Maryland, the DC area, and then obviously Florida big. But since Neil Brown's came around, Alabama.
Nice. Well, hey, Paul, this has been just an absolute honor for me. This has been super fun. Hopefully this isn't the last time we talk. Maybe we can get together maybe for some basketball and some baseball. I don't know how big of fans you are of those sports, but baseball is my main sport. Yeah, hey. So this won't be the last time we talk. So Mountaineer Paul of Locked On West Virginia. Before we get out of here, tell everybody how they can get a hold of all of your content.
Yeah, so I have 2 separate channels. One is with Locked On West Virginia. Thank you for mentioning this. At Paul Mountaineer on X. And then I have a separate basketball-only channel that I have on YouTube for a few years now, called Hoops from the Hills. That I started with somebody and then eventually bought him out of. So now we do that one as well. I'm really proud of that channel. It hasn't got as much content lately as I would like, but yeah, so Hoops from the Hills is a fun one, and we definitely keep a lot of basketball content up there.
Mountaineer Paul of Locked On West Virginia, thanks so much.
No problem, man. Thank you, Casey.